Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today's card features the new Peaceful Wishes greeting stamp set, part of the October 2017 release from Mama Elephant. I love these sentiment stamps or greeting sets that have the large scripty greeting and then lots of little phrases to use underneath. I've used the smaller phrases on several of my cards previously this month, and this time I'm going to combine the two. So I have die cut a frame, and I took the PEGWORKS die out of the center of this frame, but this is a frame from the PEGWORKS die collection. I wanted the inside rectangle to be a solid piece of cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and use my powder tool all over this, stamp the Peace on Earth sentiment with Versamark ink right there in the center of the middle panel. And then I'm going to sprinkle on gold embossing powder. We're going to do a simple shadow stamping type of look with greetings today. This is one of my favorite looks. It's so easy to achieve. And all you really need for it is either a dark ink. I'm going to go ahead and do double embossing. I don't always do that. So maybe a black ink. And then you want to shift your paper slightly, stamp the sentiment with Versamark ink again, and heat emboss with clear embossing powder. Clear embossing powder is the key for successful shadow stamping. So I'm popping this right back into my MISTI. And this time I'm going to slightly move it down, hardly any. So I'm going to put it right back in that corner and slightly shift it to the left and down. Not very much. You hardly have to move it. You only want that shadow to just show up a little bit. Now I got some gold embossing flakes places I did not want them. Even though I use the powder tool, I'm using the Tombow Mono Eraser to get rid of those. I love this eraser. It works for so many things. So here is stamping that image again exactly, only I've just shifted my paper just slightly. It's like what you don't want to do when you're stamping one image right on top of another. Do that. It seems kind of funny, but it's going to give this awesome shadowed effect. So now I'm simply sprinkling clear embossing powder. This is the key. It has to be clear over this because part of it does cover up the original stamped image. And then I'm going to heat emboss this. You can't tell it since it's clear on white, but when I go to apply Distress Oxide ink over this, that area that is just clear only is going to, and the gold embossing, both, they're going to resist the ink, but that clear is going to give you that slight white shadow around the letters, which I think is fantastic. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to do a little bit different. Instead of a red background or red or pink, something that I tend to gravitate towards, one of my favorite current color combinations is the Lucky Clover and Twisted Citron Distress Oxide inks. I love these. So I am going to start, and the majority of the panel will be Lucky Clover. This to me is the perfect holiday green. Up near the top, I'm going to have some Twisted Citron, and I'm going to pull a lot of that Lucky Clover into that because it's so limey green. And while I really like it, and I want some of that to show through, I want more of the more Christmassy type green. Now, can you see in all of the loops in the word Earth, those little areas where white is showing, so you see that awesome shadow effect? It almost gives it a 3D look. This is where that shadow stamping comes in. I think it's just phenomenal. Now you want to buff off the embossed areas really good with a dry rag or paper towel. I like to buff mine out really, really good, and so it looks nice, and you can see all those little bright white areas, almost like snow, sitting on top of these script style letters. And then I'm going to spritz the whole thing with water a couple times and let the water do its work with the oxide ink and kind of wick away, blot that dry, and then you want to heat this completely if you want to stamp and emboss on it right after like I did. If you want to let it air dry completely and then come back and do this later, you could do that as well. I wanted to go ahead and stamp and emboss, and if you did that right away, embossing powder would stick to any area that was still damp. So it would stick to the Oxide inks because they're a pigment ink, they're a slow drying ink. It would stick to the water spots and that would just ruin the whole look. So I heated the whole panel with my heat tool. Then I took the extra sentiment from the Peaceful Wishes stamp set, and I'm going to position that down in the lower right corner above the frame. Use my powder tool again, stamp that sentiment, and this time go ahead and emboss the sentiment with white embossing powder. This wasn't necessarily an afterthought. I was going to use this greeting all along. I thought about using it in a different color. I was going to just use a black VersaFine ink, and I got to that point and I didn't want to use black ink, and I'm really glad I didn't. You could also stamp and emboss this before you do any of the inking with white or clear embossing powder and ink over it just like you did the scripty greeting, and it would do embossed resist rather than embossing on top. So either way, it is completely up to you. Next, I am going to take that black VersaFine ink, and on a scrap of Bristol Smooth cardstock, I'm going to stamp a couple of the images from Whimsical Winter, the owl, and the trio of gift packages. I like the VersaFine ink for watercoloring. However, I like to hit it with my heat tool first. This works fantastic with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I just like to make sure that the ink is really good and dry before I take a marker to it. Then I'm going to color in the gift packages, and they're all going to be in some kind of bright shades. So pinks, kind of limey greens, the same colors as the background, only in the Zig markers, and of course a little red to pull in there and give me a nice combination of colors to use for these gift packages. I like to lay down the dark color first and blend it out with my lighter marker. You can go back over it if you need to. The Bristol cardstock is super forgiving. Unlike many watercolor cardstocks I've tried with these markers, this cardstock just works fantastic. They blend smoothly, they look amazing. Bristol Smooth cardstock is my recommended cardstock for the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I think it's phenomenal. The colors of markers I'm using, I have listed along the left edge of the screen. So the presence colors, I listed the number and then the name of the marker. I know some of you go more by the name than the number. I do too, but there are some of you that know the numbers as well. So I wanted to put both of those there to make it easy for reference. I'll color in all of the packages, and then we're going to move over to the owl. And I'm going to do her or him in a nice neutral gray, just a couple of shades of gray to finish the little critter off with an orange beak and then some pink for the cheeks. Just like before, I like to add my dark color first, so I'm just kind of messily laying down that dark color in some of the areas. I will grab my lighter marker, blend that out, and even blend that lighter color into the center of the face. I want the center of the face to be lighter, but still pull in a little darker here and there. You can clean off the tip of your marker on a little scrap piece of paper. I just keep cleaning it off down near the bottom so that I don't pull too much dark into the lighter areas. Some pink for the cheeks, and then I will die cut both of these with the coordinating Whimsical Winter dies. I've added a few Nuvo crystal drops to the design already. I kind of think they look like confetti here, which is kind of fun. I've added the owl, or adhere the owl, right on top of the sentiment, kind of overlapping the larger greeting. And then the trio of packages is going to go down in the bottom left corner. And then using some Nuvo crystal drops in Carnation Pink, Red Berry, Pale Gold, and Woodland Green, I'm going to add little dots. Some to the large scripty greeting there, kind of near the little flourishes, and the rest scattered throughout just for some nice confetti. Adds to the celebration type of theme and holiday feel of the card. Thanks for joining me today for this embossed shadow greeting featuring the Mama Elephant Peaceful Wishes stamp set. The supplies I used to create this card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.